Hello everyone, welcome back to the shop. Today I want to go over a pretty simple technique. It's kind of swept under the rug a lot on using cutoff wheels on angle grinders. Hope you enjoy this video and find it informative. I see a lot of guys making this mistake out there, not only personally guys that I have taught before, but also all over YouTube. Whenever you watch a cutoff wheel or an angle grinder review, even from companies, big box store companies, you can tell the guys have not spent much time cutting with a cutoff wheel. So I just figured that it might make a nice, interesting video and give you guys some quick tips on it. Thanks for watching. Okay, everyone, here we are at the workbench. So I've drawn a couple illustrations here. The other illustration's right next side this one. It won't fit in the same camera link, so I'll clip out and I'll go to the next one. But take a look at this diagram here. It's not a diagram, it's just a picture. Take a look at this here. This is the proper way to cut into a bar of steel. A bar of steel, a piece of angle iron, flat stock, solid, tube, doesn't matter, whatever it is. This is the proper orientation for the cutoff wheel of an angle grinder to come in and cut your material. A few key points that I want to show, and I'll show you what most guys are doing and how they're doing it wrong in this next little clip here, and I'll explain what I mean by this. To properly cut off stock with a cutoff wheel, you need to take and know what is going on in the cutting action itself. So in the cutting action here, this is usually an abrasive wheel, or if you've bought one of these diamond wheel things, which I'm still testing out. So far I'm loving it, but we'll see how that goes. If you've got an abrasive wheel chucked up in your saw, or you've got a any abrasive wheel whatsoever, it's a cutoff wheel. You will notice how I drew some dot lines here, and they're kind of at a curve, okay? Every cut has a kerf, and a kerf is essentially this slot that's being cut, okay? Has a certain kerf. So if your blade's 1/8 inch wide, you'll have about an 1/8 inch kerf. You'll have that'll be the cutting thickness, okay? But I'm going to explain it kind of like this. So the principle of what's happening with a cutoff wheel here is the rotation's in this direction, okay, should be. So when it's cutting in this direction and you touch it to the material, what it is doing is it is cutting at the leading edge and it is expelling the material that has been cut at the retreating edge. So the feed edge and the retreating edge, we'll just call it that. It's not proper vernacular for it, don't really care, irrelevant, it's the point. Where it starts to hit the material is where the cutting action is taking place. And then at the rear of the blade, where it's coming back to the angle grinder, is where it is taking that removed material and ejecting it. That's why the sparks that are usually coming down towards the ground or at your legs is usually a heavier shower of sparks, or should be, than what the sparks are that are coming off the top of the wheel. Those are residual little pieces of iron that have gotten trapped onto the cutoff wheel's grinding medium, and it's getting flicked off out in front. So study this picture real good. If you are cutting properly, this is how your sparks should look, and this is the orientation of the blade to the cut. So what's happening in this kerf? Why is this a big deal? Well, as you get deeper into the cut, not out here, but in here, the correct orientation of this blade to the material matters. The reason why it matters is, and I'll show you in the next slide, or the next drawing across the table here when I go to the next clip, but you don't want to be dragging the cut material through the cut for long periods of time before it gets ejected. The reason why is as this starts cutting, and it's cutting this material, it is heating that material up, or superheating that material, and it is getting stuck and adhered to the blade. Well, as it starts to cut through that material and being stuck and adhered to the blade, it builds up. And so therefore, it kind of glasses over a little bit, and it prevents the blade from cutting. It prevents the abrasive to be exposed to the steel to continue the cut. Much like chips that have to come out of a bandsaw blade. I may do a video on that in particular. Just a lot of guys don't understand how the chips are supposed to come out and what, loading up of a bandsaw blade looks like and things like that. May go over that at a later date. These little things matter, and they can improve your work, and they can also improve the longevity of your blades and your tooling and your equipment. So it matters. So what happens is as this builds up, it's no longer cutting. And so what happens? It starts building friction. And friction is resistance. And resistance is higher amp draws. And higher amp draws are more pull on the electric motor that you're using to grind through the material. This is hard on not only your tooling, but it's also hard on the blades that you're using. And it's just hard on the piece. You're just turning this thing scalding hot. So the correct orientation, just as some reference points. How do you know that you're cutting this kerf right? Well, you can look at two things. The sparks, that's your main indicator. If you are cutting correctly, you should have a heavy flow of sparks coming out of the cut. And you should have a few sparks running about like you see them here, shooting out the front of the guard on your angle grinder. This right here, this little picture, is worth 1,000 words or 1,000 cuts, and I really hope you guys take this to heart. This little picture, study that one more time. Okay, hope you got it. We're going to go to the next clip, and I'm going to show you what I see most people doing and why it's bad. Okay, here we are at my other little picture that I've drawn here. This is what I see most people doing, and it's bad. And if you don't believe me, look around YouTube. It's really interesting to see, and you'll start getting what I'm talking about. Just research cut-off wheel reviews and things like that. What shocks me is there's guys that claim to have 30 years in fabrication and things like that, and they have never learned to use this properly, to use a cut-off wheel properly. And then they'll claim it all off on the cut-off wheel, they'll claim it all off on the angle grinder itself, or whatever. But really what it is that they have this inability to understand. They have never learned what they're doing wrong. The only way that I know this is it was a real obscure video that I saw one time. I was half asleep. It was in a meeting at work at an HVAC company thing. It was a safety training meeting. And it was like how to extend the life of your cutoff wheels. And I was like, I don't even use cutoff wheels at this point. I'm in HVAC, and so most I used was 10 snips and sawzalls and things like that. I really didn't have a need for cutoff wheels, but I was half asleep. But the presenter made some good points, and he had kind of shown a different way that I had never thought of before with this, and it just stuck. And I've applied it ever since, and it works. So, enough of that little rant. Most guys are doing as you see right here. So this is supposed to be the top surface of the material. This is the cutoff wheel, and then this is the kerf. This is what's being cut out. And I hope you guys are starting to see right now, and I'm sure the more astute people, I guess, or I wouldn't call astute, I just call them speedy people that don't want to watch the rest of this video. you guys can just fast forward and watch the clips that are coming up on the end where I'm going to be showing you the proper way of cutting off and the improper way of cutting off. But never mind that. What I want you to get is this right here. You see how this looks right here? I see guys walking angle grinders all the way around the piece, trying to sever it off. This is incorrect. You should be able to take and cut most of the way through a piece, flip around and cut the rest of the half if it's a real thick piece, and still keeping in line with the original drawing that I already draw. The reason why this is a bad way to cut off bar stock, tubing, pipe, anything of the like, is if you look at what's going on in this kerf here, what have we created? We have created a really long cutting kerf. And this really long cutting kerf is doing what? It is dragging the material that is being cut through the cut. It's getting superheated and plastered all over the abrasive wheel. And then by the time it gets here, what is it doing? It's adhering to the blade. And it's really heavy at this point by the time it gets all the way through and back up into here. And it's really good and adhered to the blade. So what happens? We get a shower of sparks like you wouldn't believe. We get sparks going every which way, all over the place. It'll look just like a natural spiral of sparks. Those sparks are partly a little bit of abrasive, but they are mostly the iron that is adhered to the wheel, flicking off and bursting. The little superheated iron particles coming off and bursting, just like when you hit a grinder wheel or anything else with a piece of steel. It's the same effect. That's why you put your guards and you keep your guards on everything. That's a whole nother point. Grinder safety. Don't ever, ever, ever remove the safety devices that are designed and engineered to go with an angle grinder. Never, ever, 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 ever remove them. Look up angle grinder accidents or cutoff wheels or when cutoff wheels explode. Just Google it. 100% of the time where people get messed up with angle grinders exploding on them and they have messed up faces and it split their skull in two for them is when they took off the guard. Never take off guards. Always leave them on. They were designed for a purpose. Safety is the utmost priority. But this right here, this illustration is bad cutting practices. And I'm going to show you this in actual real time in the video clips that's going to be here in just a moment. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you will take this to heart and this will help you out. When you are grinding like this, you will find yourself having to take and bear down. When you're using the cutoff wheel, you're going to find yourself having to bear down on the material because this is getting greased over with molten steel that's flicking off in these directions in every which way. And some of it's not even getting off in time and it's just getting put right back through the cut. And what you're going to do is that causes you to press harder than what you need to press, which breaks off more abrasive, which breaks off, you just reduce the wheel so quickly, so quickly. If you do it like my other diagram here, your wheels will last about 10 times longer, just even on the abrasive wheels. So something to take into consideration. I'll shut up. I'll go put it in practice now. Both these cuts are going to be in real time. I'm using my 9-inch Bosch angle grinder with a Lennox MetalMax diamond cutting blade. I would use an abrasive blade to show you the difference there, but I bought the MetalMax blade in hopes to not have to buy any more abrasive blades into the future. And so far I like it better. But the principle is essentially the same. It doesn't matter if it's a diamond blade, if it's a carbide tipped blade, or if it is a abrasive blade, it is the same principle. So be safe out there, guys. Enjoy these last clips. Thank you for watching this and this quick little rant of mine. I hope this will help everybody out. And if you got any questions, chuck them in the comment section. I'd be happy to answer them when I get a chance to. And I greatly appreciate you watching. God bless you all, and enjoy these last clips.